Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Lunch Money with Scott and Edan. And as always, I am joined with Edan Gottlieb. And today we're going to talk about something that is really fresh. We're going to talk about sales kickoff. And how do you ensure that you have an absolutely amazing sales kickoff? And I suspect that for a lot of revenue leaders, sales kickoff is right around the corner. It's probably all planned out right now. It's probably all in the works. And us two coming in and saying like, oh, here's how you can not screw up your SKO that you already have planned out and everything is probably a little bit presumptuous. But I think that there are a few things that any leader can think about. And as Edan and I were preparing for this episode of Lunch Money, one of the things we were thinking about is like, if you have your SKO starting on Monday, right, a week from today, or your SKO starts tomorrow, what are some of the things that you could do and not do to ensure that this becomes the most successful SKO that you've ever had? And Edan, when you and I were working at Cloudinary, we ran through 5 SKOs together. It was always a good time and always a really successful event. But one of the things that we always fell back on was you had kind of a 5-point play of what makes an SKO really successful. So why don't you talk about what those 5 points are, and I think it's something that anybody can look at their agenda that's coming up and go, okay, like, do we have the 5 fundamentals correct to ensure that we've got a great event happening?
Yeah, and you're right. These were kind of the fundamentals that made sure we've covered everything and that the SKO was successful, and we did all of them. So kind of you start off with, it's both the purpose, the impact, and what you're actually going to do there. So first one is about alignment. Make sure that everybody's aligned on, this is what we want to do. Here are our targets. Here's where the company's heading. Here's where the group is heading. Here's where the departments are. And so it's the alignment part is an important kind of first one. Then it's about motivation and get people to get excited about the year to come. It's the beginning of the year. You finished either a great or a tough or a mid. I mean, last year was a complicated year for many companies. So you just got to get people back on the excitement track and equip them with the ability to be optimistic and excited about where they're going and what they're doing about this stuff. Then it's about education. Right? There's a lot of materials that you want to get people up to date about new things and how to do it. Some of it is reinforcement. Some of it is new things. There's product aspects. There is sales process. There is methodology. You can always take it to the next level. You can always reiterate. But there's an educational portion of like, I'm transferring materials to you guys. But then there is the practice. People talk about building skills. You want them to skill up, and practicing and working and doing it together and having them participate is super critical. So that's kind of the fourth one. And last one is about getting people to work together. And that's getting the teams and the departments, and that's doing the award ceremonies, and bring them, really help build these connections. So when they turn around and go to the field and have to go fight together or play together or advance together, you created this bond in an area that is not the field out there and the selling. And as you mentioned, the practice is, and I would do it as well, after we've created everything, you go back to the basics, say, did I cover all of that? Is that well balanced? And am I in each of these areas? There would usually be some themes that I would want to cover for the year, that we want to set forward, that we want to correct from what happened last year. And so it's really important that you make sure that it is all covered well. But these are the fundamentals.
Yeah. So as an action item for somebody who is listening to this, can you run down those 5 again so people don't have to go back and rewind and start from scratch?
Yep. So number 1, alignment.
Okay.
Number 2, motivation, education, practice, and working together.
Love it. I think like if any sales leader was sitting down and they looked at their agenda for the week that they're going to have their sales kickoff, if they nail all 5 of those, they're going to have a really successful event.
Yep. This is a very good baseline for you. Yep.
Keep going.
No, that's all I had.
That's
all I got.
So, okay, there we go. So let's talk about some of the things that at this point, like, I think that the agendas are already pretty well maxed out, but there's some little things that companies can do or not do, or that sales leaders can do or not do. Like I said, you and I have had a number of really successful sales kickoff meetings together. I think one of the things that I really enjoyed was our like American Idol-esque version of the demo off, where we had the salespeople, get up on stage and they had to do a demo in front of their peers. Now, if you don't have the time allocated for doing this right now, like it's an easy thing to do in between breaks. You could do it as hey, we're going to do the 5-minute elevator pitch on stage and get some of your best reps to actually show how to do it and put people on stage. So to me, I feel like that was a great thing that was put into a number of our SKOs. It made a lot of people cry. Right, it was kind of the start of my days that Scott made people cry calendar that Phil Jones had. But I think it was such a good use of time to get people on stage and actually give a demo in person. Another thing that I think that you can do very quickly, everybody likes to do win reviews. They bring out the salesperson that closed the biggest deal or a handful of the biggest deals, and they get that person to talk about their win reviews. In my experience, having people talk about loss reviews is equally as important, especially if it was like a really competitive deal that went down to the final hour. You learn, why did we lose this? What could we do differently? What should we have done to win this? What would we do differently again in the future? Like when you start having that discussion in person, it does two things. One, it shows that failure is acceptable. And two, it shows that it helps the team learn about how to avoid the pitfalls that a lot of deals fall into. And I think like when you want to build a strong sales culture, if you can educate people and show them that it's okay to take some risk once in a while, you'll have like a really strong group there. Edan, what are some other do's that you like doing at sales kickoffs?
Yeah, and before I add my dues, you've touched on really two good ones, and the example about the demo was a good one because it touched on so many things we talked about a bit earlier before about trying to get alignment and education and making sure that we fix things that are not working. One of the things we've identified was our product has matured a lot and people were behind, and kind of understanding the product was really, really important. And we translated it into if you can go through the standard demo, no matter who you are in the group and in the company, you'll get to this baseline of understanding what we do and how we do it. And we've translated towards this interactive American Idol style. And it was amazing because we got so many backlashes about this as we were preparing and people were doing it. But then after everybody did it, you not only created the camaraderie amongst themselves because they had to work in groups and we mixed the groups and we made it even more. We took advantage of the fact that peer judgment is actually the most feared. It's even people would rather fail in front of me, the boss, than they would in front of their peers. And so you put them on the stage in front of the peers was really the most extreme position we can put them in. Now we didn't do it because we were evil or just because we were evil. We did it because and you turn around to the real life and you go to real customers, you're going to live in these kind of stressful situations. So you should be able to handle it when it's a kind of a safe environment. I think this is really important, and you got people to work together and go to the materials and really embody it and build the skill and understand the product. So we hit a lot of these checkboxes with this exercise that was very emotional, let's call it. In terms of the loss reviews, I actually like it as well too, because you really only learn from your losses. Mm-hmm. And you could truly understand it, and it also contributes to trying to build this safe environment of like people, as you mentioned, take the risks, and it's okay, and you fail, and you look at it. You look at every sport that we talk about. If you talk about baseball or basketball or football or soccer, whatever you're going to look at.
We're not going to talk about golf because I know you don't like it.
I like golf. Actually, I really like golf. We could even talk about golf, about how many of the practice shot you take versus how many other real ones you do. And we're talking about low percentage. We're talking about 1, 5, 8% of your shots happens in real live games. The rest happens in your practice. Yeah. It's actually most of the good ones is less than a percent.
It's like 98%, right?
Well, the stats are going for Steph Curry is that less than 1% of the shots that he has ever made were in live games. So they calculated throughout his career, he did about 2.5 million three-point shots, and only 1,500 of them were in real live games.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So I think the point about the do's and that you mentioned out and kind of the tactical things to pick is like pick those things and see how important it is, how it aligns with everything else. Of like make sure you do it. I'll add to that maybe a different layer than tactical one. Just make sure that you do things that are between the teams and the teams working together. Kind of the demo is a good example. Make sure you do stuff in the teams. Teams that have to go work together later in the field. Have them work and do stuff together. And for individuals, so each of them can get their own sets of skills or practices or things like that. So make sure you do this. Also,
that's such an easy one, by the way. Like just like all you need to do is just change the tables for lunch, right? You can have
exactly.
We're going to have somebody from marketing and from SDRs and from CS and from product all sit at the same table with somebody from the sales team. Now you've got this like consortium of 5 people with big brains who can really go solve things versus like, we're just going to be like 5 salespeople huddled in the corner eating our, pre-made lunch.
And even when you do this stuff, you can mix around. You got the guys from Europe, we got the US, or the guys from Asia, and from mix and match all the time. Yes, you want to really, I use the word manipulate the situation, but it's what you want to try and do so you can get everybody kind of working together. I had one more, but yeah, that's probably good enough. Yes.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good list of live demos in front of the crowd. Talk about loss reviews. Talk about doing live deal reviews. That was like another one that I don't think that we hit on was getting somebody on stage and sit down and talk about like, okay, where does this deal stand right now, and almost do like a pipeline review of that deal to all of your peers out in the crowd. Right? When you get up on stage and say, okay, we're going to go through MedPick and, this guy's my champion, and somebody stands up and says, well, why is that guy your champion? Like it becomes really evident whether you know what you're talking about or not.
Actually, that's a good point too. And the examples we're giving here are just a couple of examples towards the bigger thing, what you're really trying to do. You're trying to either roll out something new or reinforce something existing that is not working well. And you want to pick these exercises based on this, right? We talked about the demo. We wanted to kind of re-roll out and reinforce knowing the product and all the features and get people very comfortable with that and understand what's going on in the conversation.
Yeah.
When we talk about MedPick and we talk about a sales process and a sales methodology, we wanted to reinforce it, right? We did the live deal reviews to reinforce, here's the methodology, here's how it works. If you not feeling comfortable on this section, or the metrics was a big, great thing. So how do you figure out the metrics? And so you pick those exercises, and again, you want them to always hit all 3 points, like teams working together, between teams, the team itself working together, individuals getting some of it. And if you construct it based on this and connect it to something new I'm rolling out or something I want to reinforce to get it better, take it to the next level, then you're going to pick the right exercises. It doesn't have to be a demo, it doesn't have to be real reviews, but these are good tools and good examples of something that can turn around and do in the real world afterwards.
Yeah. Let's talk about don'ts. And my big don't is, my big don't is don't drink too much. I think the worst SKO that I ever put on, I had to fire 3 people during the middle of it because they had all gotten a little bit too sauced and did some things that were inappropriate, and next thing you know, they were packing their bags and on the next flight out of town, unfortunately. So I would say don't drink too much, but like there's a lot of other things not to do. And I think again, if you're looking at your agenda for your SKO that's coming up in a week or so, you can sit down and really easily look at these things. And you had a really good one about inspiration and not overemphasizing it. So can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, inspiration is important, and you want to inspire people to be inspired and be motivated, and it sometimes becomes a big pivotal thing because you sometimes pay for the outside speaker to come in, and it becomes a really important thing. But the problem with inspiration, and even if you over-rotate into inspiration, even the stuff that you do later internally, is that it doesn't last for long, right? It's the pixie dust goes away after day 2 week, 3 weeks kind of, and people need some stuff to go a long way. So you want it there. It's good to sometimes to kick off to get people kind of in the right level of where they're at and where their heads in and how excited they are, and over the jet lag if they have to go through that one. But you can't over rotate on it, and so many times it becomes the thing. it's okay to point out to that and leverage it. But if you over rotate, and this becomes the important thing about your SKO, and the most memorable thing about your SKO, it would do not going to do much for long. That's what will happen. So it's a piece. It's an important piece. Don't over rotate on it.
And it feels like, at least in my experience, it also feels like that inspiration tends to be a bit of a one-way communication, which I think is something that everybody needs to figure out how to avoid when they're doing an event like a sales kickoff there. It's like, if you're solely talking to the sales team or the sales and marketing team or whoever is at your SKO, and you're not engaging with them and you're not doing the things like, kind of getting them together for meals and like having them participate, it just becomes like this, single one lane road of like, I'm going to force all this information down your throat and I'm not giving you any chance to participate or give feedback back. That makes for a terrible experience for the sellers who are out in the crowd trying to take all of this in. And in fact, like if you're just sitting there hearing it, it becomes difficult to put in practice, which is why we were talking about all the things in the do's list of, hey, if you do these things, people will actually start to learn how to do them and therefore they'll put them into practice.
Yep. And you get a lot of pressure in SKO, right? Because there's a lot of different groups that want to present. You got the entire sales team, and you got product, and you got things, you got marketing, and everyone wants to do it.
Everybody wants an hour.
One of the SKO, yeah. And remember one of the SKOs, what we just said to do is to put like a harsh time limit, and we gave everyone 10 minutes.
I remember that.
Again, we became we were very unpopular, but it had such a positive impact because first, everybody had to really think about what they want to say because they got 10 minutes. Second, it created this dynamics of a very fast pace. So one of the things we wanted to project in general for the team was we're going to move faster as a company and as a team. And so it created that in SKO, the feeling of like, oh, this is moving. It's like 10, 10, 10, 10. And so it was just, I think, an overall win to do it. And it does put the onus on the presenter to figure out how do I take an hour long kind of a conversation and do it in 10 minutes.
Right.
It got the crowd engaged because they need to be on their toes because they don't have enough time to space out because it's going to go and going to move to a different topic. And so, important for you to do it. Part of that, even if you have to speak at people, if you make it 10 minutes as an example, you'll get a lot more interaction going on because it's like every 10 minutes they have to get up and clap or something will happen and the person changes and the tone changes and some people move their hands, some people don't, and so it just
I would put one of the don'ts that I always implemented was don't let people use their laptops or their devices. Like, they have to have laptops closed, they have to have their phones down. And I actually find people, right? I kind of got a little bit famous both at Dynamic Signal and at Cloudinary. Like if you're late, you get fined. Yeah. If you are on your laptop, you get fined. Like it's, you're there to learn and you're there to participate. And if you're sitting there browsing Reddit or, kind of, I've got to talk to this customer or whatever, like, salespeople are great at coming up with excuses on like why they can't participate in sales kickoffs. You in fact even saw something on Reddit that you shared with me about like sales guys not wanting to go to kickoff. Like, how do you avoid that?
Well, I think there's two sides to that coin. One of them is a really important one, which is you got to make sure that you deliver value, and you got to remember that it's the sales team needs to be in the center of this. This is SKO. It's sales kickoff. A lot of times you lose it that's why we said go look at your agenda. You lose it with all the other things, with updates and products and inspirations and finance and whatever and complaints. And you got to make sure there's great value for a sales rep and a sales team coming in there, so it's worth their while. So you don't see stuff already like, give me an excuse of how do I don't get out of SKO. And there's some interesting stats to support it because, we shared it before and in some of the companies I worked for, and we actually built a business case and tracked it for each of these SKOs, but there's also some interesting numbers. But on the SKO front is companies that did not have SKOs never made their number.
Yeah.
Which is
crazy stat, but true.
It's like crazy stat. We have a secondary stat, which we did on QBRs, which we'll talk separately in a different episode about it. But individual reps that did not attend QBRs never made their number. And so it has an impact. So there is a significant impact. But on the other hand, you want to maximize it. So make sure the sales team is in the middle. So they want to come there, not because, free drinks, great lunches, and I get out of the house. It's because I could learn stuff, I get interacted, I'm going to build some relationships. It's going to give me tools to be successful later on. Now, the other part that you mentioned about this, and there's this tardiness and this notion, especially in get it with sales team, and it's about using your laptop or not being on time. And it's amazing. And I know you have this is where we kind of, I like it, don't like your method, because I think your point is spot on. It is insulting that everybody sits there, right? Depends on the size of the team, but we had 100 and something people coming in, including executives, and I will be there too. And we pay attention, and you don't.
You spend an enormous amount of money to do this too.
Yeah.
Like this.
So you're like, it's not interesting to me, or it's not important enough for me to respect it to show it up on time, which is a message that is a problematic one. Your method was more, and it was very unpopular when you find people, but it actually worked.
People showed up on time.
I find,
and by the way, like, I don't keep the money. Like, just to be like really clear, like I don't keep the money.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we gave the money. I remember one year we gave the money to Marcus, and Marcus, the condition of getting that money was he had to buy the first round of drinks after SKO was over.
Yeah.
So it was a great opportunity for him, and Marcus was one of our top SDRs at the time, and now is a very good salesperson. So it was a good opportunity for him to meet the whole sales team and buy them drinks.
The point was about respect the time. So this is where I have to be honest. I mean, I have an internal conflict about that all the time because it was very effective. People shut up on time and respected everybody else, which is important. Although it's a very abrasive kind of a move. So my jury's still out on it. I like that it worked really well. But yeah, it goes back, bring value, but also people have to kind of get into their respect. It's not, it is more important. It's not more important than this. We're doing all this so you could be successful in making your number for the year, not making that call that you scheduled for now.
Yeah. So we're recording this on January 27th. This will probably go live February 4th or so. If I'm a seller and I've missed this, or I'm a sales leader and I've missed this, let's talk about some of the things that salespeople and sales leaders can do immediately after SKO in order to ensure that they're getting the most value out of it. And I think that if I'm a seller, I want to start doing the things that I learned immediately, right? Like, I want to learn what works and what doesn't, but I at least want to give it the benefit of the doubt. And clearly, like, if my company has spent all of this time and all this energy to change the way that our sales methodology works, or to change the way that we do a demo, or to change the way that we give a pitch, anything like that, like, that company thinks that it is valuable, and it's ignorant of me to sit there and go like, you know what, these guys don't know what the hell they're talking about. Like, I would love to see sellers like try to do these things immediately.
I'll double down on this. I think that the natural reaction that sellers have, including myself, by the way, when I was doing selling, and when I'm selling, even when I'm a VP or CRO, I love that. Yeah. It's part of the fun. Is we're very resistant to change. If we figure out a formula that works, we really don't want to change it. But put in mind, just as you said, a lot of smart people, let's say not all of them are smart, but most of them are smart, really put in the effort to try and give you tools, capabilities, motions that would make you more successful than you were before. And just dismissing it is a waste on your side versus just, try it out. If it's bad, then throw it away. But just try to check it out. See if it works for you.
Yeah.
So super important to do it, because the tendency is not to do it. They did all this work. Take advantage of it. They did it for you with a lot of good intentions. And most of them are competent. Take it, use it. It should make you more successful. That's the point.
Yeah.
Don't reject it.
No, I think another thing that if I'm a seller that I want to do is I want to connect with the cross-functional teams. Now I've met these people who are there to help me get deals done. Like, take them to lunch, buy them a coffee, pick up the phone and call them once in a while. Like, engage with these people that aren't necessarily in the sales team, but want to help you to get deals done.
Yep. We talked about working together. This is the opportunity. We brought people, leverage these connections you've created. We've done in one of the SKOs, we brought the legal team into SKO.
Yeah,
we flew them halfway around the world. After that, the world has changed for us instead of like, what do they want? Really being in tune, great work together, even becoming more strategic about how we negotiate certain terms and deals in our favor. It was just a phenomenal success.
Yeah, that was a good one. We talked a lot about, you and I talk a lot about practice for sports. I don't believe that salespeople practice nearly enough. And I think that if you
Yep.
are coming out of SKO and you've learned something new, grab one of your buddies and do a walk around the parking lot or do a quick Zoom call or do, kind of whatever you need to do. Go practice what you learn and go role play things out. And, you will find that, just like Steph Curry taking a shit ton of shots during his practice, right? When you take those shots in practice, you learn what works and what doesn't. So that way, when you're actually in the game, you can execute perfectly on those.
Don't practice on live environment. And the mistakes happening over and over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last one is pick up your phone and call your customers. You learned a lot this week. Figure out find out how it resonates and give that feedback back to the teams. Adon, if I'm a leader, what are the things that I should be doing immediately, post SKO, most importantly to ensure that what we learned is valuable and is being used on a regular basis?
Yeah, I think there's three critical elements. One is, we talked about training and enablement, and make sure there's a continuation of that, and more so the practice. Force the practicing into people's days' lives. Do this, I don't know, Monday university, Thursday university, Monday train, whatever it is. Do it as the leader, and if you're a larger group, make sure that your leaders do it, but make sure it's there. Establish a cadence of really checking in and talking about how we're making progress versus what we're talking about. We got alignment. Now, make sure that it is, whether it's QBRs, monthly calls, weekly calls, you establish whatever cadence it is, but stay with this so you can reinforce whatever you got alignment on. Third one, which I think is very important, and we might have some episodes following up on it, is that we talked about alignment. So you're going to reach alignment on a lot of things, but that doesn't mean you solve the problems. There's some real problems that exist that you have to follow up and make sure that you deal and fix them, whether it's we're missing features and capabilities or processes of what is an opportunity and what is a qualified lead and what is not, Salesforce, forecasting. There's so many that you could be on the list. Figure out what are the things that we might already align, but there's still a problem. The fact that we're all on the same page doesn't mean that it's not a problem for us. And you pick it up and you work through the next few months to get them all to be fixed or to a better position that they're at.
Yeah. And enablement, right? I think if you're a leader and you have I'm on a big enablement high right now because I'm working on an ROI project for something, and enablement keeps coming up as a really positive ROI. So you've spent all of this time and all of this energy and all of this money to have this amazing sales kickoff. You have to keep enabling your sales team to do the things that you taught them how to do once. I think that there's a huge mistake that a lot of people make, and that is, hey, you know what? I told you this one thing 6 months ago. Why didn't you do it today? People forget shit, and you can't just leave them tell them once. You have to tell them again and again and again and again before it becomes habit.
Yep, and you have to continuously do it. So you have the education part, then you have the practice part, which is kind of this is how you build a skill. Point is skill them up.
Yep. And I think that those are four to eight really good action items. If you're a seller, start doing this stuff immediately. Work with your cross-functional teams, practice and role play, call your customers. If you're a sales leader, get that feedback, reinforce the themes, do the regular check-ins, and enable people. And I think what you'll find is you'll probably make a lot more money, and hopefully you like that, because Adon and I do like money.
We do like money.
This has been another episode of Lunch Money with Scott and Adon. Thanks, Adon.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.